Yes, yeah, I'm very well, thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. Just tell us a little bit about yourself. Introduce yourself to us, please.
Okay, so in this context, I'm a parent, and I've been a parent for over 28 years to children from me, but also a parent to others. And I'm really interested in the mental wellness. Now, in terms of the vocabulary, when I was bringing up my children, it wasn't really part of the vocabulary as much as it is now. Today, we're punctuating a lot of things that we're saying with mental health, mental balance, you know. It wasn't something that we did. And so now I'm really keen to understand the language, the impact, and what we can do going forward. I've worked on many projects and done lots of things and worked with many young people. So yes, I may have lots of gray hair, but I'm quite young here.
Oh yes, definitely. Thank you so much for that, and thank you for representing the parents as well. So that's really, really great. Okay, so let's go ahead. Let's let me look at the time. So we're good. Yes, we're good for time. Okay, all right. So I'm going to start with just the first question, and I think I want to bring it. I want to kind of this question. I'm going to use this question because it's current. And it's referring to young people as well in the UK, especially in this COVID era. So, and any of you in the panels, any of you can answer this question. Okay, just let me know who wants to say something about it. If you just let me know, then I'll call you to talk about it for us. Okay, all right. So this question is, what are the current challenges to your mental well-being as a Black young person living in the UK in this COVID-19 era? And we just want to kind of see what are the current challenges that you see actually affecting young Black people in our community in this era.
I don't mind answering.
Yes, go for it,
if that's okay. I've noticed that with a lot of Black people, especially in the UK, like there's this kind of like shield we put on or mask that we tend to put on that doesn't let people see our emotions, doesn't let people see inside of it, especially Black males. It's like, especially like African homes, Caribbean homes, the father's the head of the house. So it's like you have to be tough all the time. When a male shows their emotions, it's a problem. But like, or even Black women, when we show our emotions, we suddenly become the angry Black girl or the angry Black woman, and people portray us differently in the media. And I feel like that's what tends to let us withdraw our feelings or withdraw our emotions sometimes. So we tend to find that things build up inside of us. So especially during this lockdown, like at times with emotions, people think that it's a negative thing when actually it's quite positive. The fact that we can feel things, the fact that we can hurt, we can cry, we can do things like that. It's actually, to me, it's a gift. So when you need to do stuff, I feel like you should let it out. So when you need to cry, when you need to yell, things like that. If you need to express your emotions, you should do that. And I found that especially in lockdown, you feel like there's these four walls around you, you can't really escape. So I feel like you have to like express your emotions as much as possible. Input, like there's an input and an output. Like if whatever you find that brings you peace, reading, things like that, you have to make effort to do things like that. So I feel like, especially as Black people, especially in this country, it's been a bit more difficult because we put on this front like, oh, I'm okay, I don't need help, I'm good, I don't have to do anything. So I feel like that, like that perspective has to change for us to move forward. And yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Awesome. And Jennifer, you're 15.
Yeah.
Awesome. Great. Very great insights. I appreciate that.
Hello, guys. Hello.
Who's speaking at the moment? Who's that? Stay with me 1 second. Okay. All right, Jennifer, thank you so much for that. Yes. Who else wants to kind of touch on that as well, please? Yeah, go for it, Wemi. Yeah.
Yes, so just building on what Jennifer said about really doing things that are sort of helpful to your mental health, such as reading or doing anything that kind of makes you feel sane. Just obviously with this space that we're in, sometimes the source of comfort that you have is unfortunately outside, and we're not able to go outside as much as we, would do normally. Like usually if you're feeling down, you might go and see friends, or you might go shopping, you might, whatever your source of comfort is to really help stabilize your mental health. And I think that's where the relationship comes in with parents. And I think it's definitely up to parents to sort of question whenever you see your child, they're not feeling as good as they may have been, or you're judging by their mood, or they seem a bit down. Really do ask questions and really invest in their days, because I know personally, I didn't necessarily have that as an issue, because I'm very fortunate to have a mother who's actually a mental health specialist. So she's actually a nurse, so she's able to examine and really see that actually, women, you're definitely not feeling too good. Do you want to talk about it? And I think sometimes that can be very helpful. I think especially I think as a Black community, we're very prone to very much dismissing our feelings and really putting on this front that we have to be strong. And I think that's sort of an emotion that has been deeply embedded into us. And sometimes it's often to our detriment, that this idea of having to be strong and carry on and everything will be okay. Everything won't be okay until we do something about it. So it's really about asking and really seeking help as well as youths as well. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Wemi. Yes, it's so important that we're bold to ask questions. Very, very important. That's so good. Thank you so much for that. Yes, Ms. Ronke, please go ahead.
Thank you. So as a parent, I spoke earlier about the language, and in this space, in this lockdown scenario, you may be a parent of children who you can't access emotionally, no matter how much you try. And you try to make space mentally for that young person. And sometimes it's difficult. So for example, Johnny B is my son, made up, okay? He's not talking, he's grumpy, he's answering with monosyllabic, in fact, they're not words, they're grunts. So I know things are going on. Do you want to talk about it? No. You give him the space, no difference. So I'm a little concerned around when we say there are issues with the Black community. I know stats show us that, but my concern is this. When we come up with solutions, we come up with solutions that have been founded on research, more or less on a particular type of people, not the BAME people. And so if it's within our DNA, if you like, I don't know whether that's true, to be strong, then is that a bad thing? Especially if there is no access to my Johnny's mind, for example. And I'm making that up for it, I'm just wondering, it's easy for us to say that, find out what's wrong with the young person, give space, the person will speak about it and all that. It doesn't always happen. And as a parent, if you go through the process, it's easy to have 20/20 vision and go back and say, maybe I could have listened to Johnny a bit more. But when you're in this space and you're asking young people, what's the matter? Or trying different ways to find out what the issue is, you may not necessarily get it. I mean, it's great that the doctor gave us the 5 hints. Yeah, that was really good. But as a parent, what do you do? Parents get perplexed. They're just perplexed. They're looking at Johnny. I'm looking at Johnny, my made-up son. He's not talking. I've left him for some days. I've given him his best meal or whatever. I've given him his best gift. I've let him be. I've asked other people to talk to him. I've stroked him. I've even scolded him. Firm words. Nothing. So I'm just giving you a parent perspective.
Oh yes, yeah, that's really, really, really great. Yeah, we'll come to that as well. But that is, and that is what we want on in this platform. We want to speak the truths out there and to see, okay, what do we do in certain situations? How can parents adjust their ways? I have some things to share on that, but I'm going to leave it to let's talk about let the youths talk about what So for the youth, what would you say to that? What would you say to in a situation where a mom or a dad wants to get information about how their son or daughter is feeling, but the son or daughter is not willing to share that information? What would you suggest? As a young person, if you were in that situation where you didn't want to talk at that moment, what would you want your mom or dad to do?
Well, I think with that, it's important to recognize that communication takes place in different forms. It doesn't necessarily have to be as direct as what is wrong with you, you've been moaning all day. It could be even something as simple as you could see that they're watching TV, maybe just sit down next to them and watch TV with them, sort of really begin to kind of understand what their interests are, and is it something that you can do. I'm not necessarily saying that every parent is going to now sit down and play PS5 with their son, and it may work, I don't know, but I think it's really opening up the walls to that, having that sort of healthy communication. Because if someone is really down and depressed, they're not necessarily going to come out and really speak to what the source of it is. Mm-hmm. And just owing to that, I think it's also about approaching the situation as open-minded as possible. I think obviously there's sort of a tendency, especially with our culture, to kind of be like, oh, well, you don't pay bills, you don't do this, you've got nothing to be stressed about. But you don't necessarily know what that child's source of stress is. It could be that the school curriculum is so hectic for them and it's so much to manage. Yes, they may not be paying monthly mortgage payments, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're not as stressed as a parent who is doing so. So I think it's that tendency to sort of remove that sort of dismissiveness in your mind, and understanding that communication doesn't necessarily have to be direct. Sometimes it can work, and some youths can be receptive to that, but sometimes it takes a bit of an extra step to get there. And I think patience is definitely key, I would say.
I love what you said about the extra step, because parents are doing what they know to do, which is great. But that extra step now is something new that parents can say, okay, what next can I do? Yes, I've done it all. I've tried this way. I've tried that way. What next step can I take? So I love that I've written that down here, next step. So I love that. I love that. Okay, anybody else, any other young person wants to kind of talk on that, to touch on that as well? If you were a young person who you didn't feel like you didn't want to talk, what would you want your parents to do? What's that extra step you want your parent to take?
Maybe because sometimes when you're sad, mm-hmm. it might not have a very valid reason to it. Mm-hmm. So sometimes I feel maybe if the parent was just there for them and maybe suggested something that they can both do together, or even if it's just you, the child, being able to be near you and to seek comfort from that. I feel like that can honestly just really help the situation, because I feel like if there is a level of trust and comfort in that parent, then if it is that serious, that the young person will go to the parent by themselves, because sometimes it's something that can be sorted out in a day or a week, that they don't feel they need to get that much involvement into it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. That is so true. And it's in those moments, because I think sometimes as well, what young people want is just that assurance that they're not going to be judged for whatever it is that is making them sad. Sometimes parents are excited about stuff and they expect the whole house to be excited as well. But everyone has their moments. My excitement time may not be that late in the evening. I'm tired. I've had a whole day at school. And so it's just important that the parents know, and just, reiterating what you have said, well, it's just being there, even if you're not saying anything, just being available, so that whenever the young person is ready to talk, then the young person would feel free and actually know that, oh, I'm not going to be, criticized or something like that on that. So thank you for that. I really appreciate that. Okay, so in this day and age with mental health, I know each and every one of you as young people, you have heard of either mental health issues from your friends, from your classmates, or people that each of us have someone that we know that has gone through stuff with their mental health. So in our community, we have parents, we have family, we have church organizations, and we have communities that are out there actually to support all of us. But the key now is, a lot of times our expectations are not being met. And so the question I want to kind of pull in here is, what are your expectations? So what should parents do more of in our community to actually help with our mental well-being? What should parents do? I'm going to split the question into what should parents do and what should the church and religious organizations do. So either or, please give us some tips to share. Are we good? Francesca? What of Francesca as a therapist? There you go.
Hello?
Hey, hi, yes, hi.
Hi.
Yeah,
So okay, great. So with the first question in terms of what should parents do, I think parents really should really try to understand their child and get to know them on an emotional level. I do think it can be difficult, especially if people have migrated from different countries, because a lot of the time parents are in that survival mode and trying to provide a roof over their children's head, food on the table, and unfortunately, what happens is that sometimes a child's emotional well-being can be neglected, though not intentionally, it can happen. So they don't really know their child. They don't really know, when the child is having a bad day, unless the child has responded in a certain way and they don't like their tone. But other than that, a lot of things can slip through the radar. So really trying to understand your child, really trying to check in with them. So just not like, oh, how was school today? Just like, how are you? How are you doing? How's your week been? How's your mood been? Has everything been okay? But also paying attention to your child's behavior. So where you see things change, if you see them withdraw, don't just think, oh, you're being moody, or she's being moody, she doesn't want to speak. Just really try and ask them questions, but really try and have an inquiring mind. I think that's really important. And also, I really like what someone said about actually spending time and doing activities with your children, because I think with relationships, you're really going to talk about when you're having a bad problem to someone you feel safe with. And I think the problem is a lot of young people don't feel emotionally safe with their parents. And so if you do have a bad day, you're not going to speak to the person who you don't feel safe with. So I think it's about really harnessing those relationships outside of the time when there's a problem. So your child does feel like they can approach you when something does go wrong. Almost, I won't say be your child's best friend, but try and be a friend to your child, outside of that parent child relationship, so they can think, okay, if I did have something did happen, if I was I'm upset about something, I can come and speak to my mum. I'm not going to be judged about it. I'm not going to be told, oh, you don't pay the mortgage. I'm not going to be compared. That's another big thing in the Black community, compared to my cousins or my siblings. I'm not going to be shut down. I think a lot of the time in the Black community, particularly, a child's voice is normally shut down. So after a while, children are very, very smart. If your voice has been shut down a certain amount of times, after, you're going to think, okay, my voice is not valid, so you're not going to speak when it's time to speak. In terms of the church, I think the church definitely is a great place to spread awareness of mental health difficulties in the church. I do feel like sometimes there is a lot of misconception about mental health being just a spiritual problem, when sometimes it is actually genetics. There's a biological element to that, and unfortunately because of that and the stigma, some people don't seek help as soon as they should, because the reality is that sometimes it is just your brain is wired in a certain way. Some people have, there's something called neurodiversity, where some of our brains are just wired differently, and that's fine. And don't get me wrong, I'm a Christian, so I believe in praying to God when it comes to your mental health, but there is also the aspect of God can use therapists, God can use psychiatrists, God can use mental health professionals. And it's so interesting because when we think about physical health, we pray about it. If you break your leg, we pray about it, but we also say, okay, let's call an ambulance, let's take you to the doctor. Oh, I pray that God, God will bring a very good doctor to help us and, to heal your leg. But we don't do the same when it comes to mental health. So I think it is really just kind of breaking this stigma and letting people know that it's okay to speak up and that you won't be judged.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yes, that's a great insight, Francesca. Very, 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 very important. I love how you talked about the comparisons as well, criticizing all those kind of little things that are, I don't want to call it normal because they're not normal, but there's widely practiced. And so when we continue doing that, it does affect the relationship, the communication, and the shutting down as well is one of the biggest things that does, the young people just say, you know what, okay, that's it. All right, there's no points. Ronke, we're coming to you next because I see your hands being raised. So thank you so much for that, Francesca. Ronke, go for it. I see your hands raised.
Thank you. So as a parent, I'm perplexed. I want to know what practical measures can be taken in the home or in a family setting that allows the building of that bond and communication. Now, I can tell you what I did. I can tell you what I should have done. I can tell you what I would like to do. But I'd like to hear from young people those things that really work. I can suggest that we have a meal, we sit together and we all talk. It could be great, or it could be wooden and there'll be no communication. I could suggest sitting down with your young persons and reading them stories. Or in my case, my husband would tell them stories about Nigeria and the grand beauty, but they were just stories, you see, and there'll be questions. In another case, it could be, let's do a game together, competitive, I don't know. Really, I'd like to know what practical, I'm not talking about the theory now, I'm not talking about all the things that when everybody sits down in a nice room like this and sits proper and we all say all the things that we should do. I'd like to know the practical things in building that relationship from a young person. When I say young, from a toddler, because I know that relationships are really sorted out when young people are really, really young, to when they're teenagers and they really know their minds and, please, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. And I see Wemi's hands is up, so Wemi's going to give us an answer on that. Wemi, go for it.
So just touching on that and what practical steps can be taken. And I know that some examples were mentioned. It could be sitting at the table together. It could be playing with your children or listening to stories, etc., etc. And I think what is really interesting about those examples that were mentioned is that it wasn't just one thing. So it's really and truly, mental health is not a one size fits all. And I think it's really just making sure that you're invested in your child. So I use the example of you might have a son or a daughter who loves their PS5 and is there for hours and you don't know what is going on. You don't know if that's an escape. It could be, I don't necessarily know if it would work because I'm not an expert myself, but it could just be something as simple as get me the controller, let me have a go and let me see how it goes. You could end up having a laugh because the parent hasn't got a clue, or it could be the opposite. Maybe the parent is great and has been hiding their skills. I don't necessarily know. Or it could just be something as, for me, I quite enjoy cooking, and so does my mum, and that's how we have our bonding time, and that's the time that we used to discuss. It doesn't necessarily mean that every single second you come into the child's room, how are you? Are you okay? It doesn't. It has to be organic, and for something to be organic, it has to take time, unfortunately. And I think, yes, it does start from when they are young, but as we do develop and we do grow personalities, we begin to change. And the things that would have worked when we were younger, which would be playing in the park or whatever, or, you know, watching football together, it might not necessarily work when they're 15, 16 and they start getting a bit older and a bit more boisterous, a bit more attitude, and et cetera, et cetera. So I think it's just, again, that goes back to my original point about patience and really, really taking the time to, as much as you study for an exam and you make sure you kind of know everything, you can never really be prepared. Something unexpected can come and you have to adapt quickly to that situation. So it's not necessarily about having one thing that kind of works, because one thing might not necessarily work. It might work on one occasion, it might not work on the other occasion. So I think for us all not to be too hard on ourselves and just think, oh, what exactly do we have to do? It may be talking, it may not necessarily be talking. And I think it's just really, and I would really appeal to young people to sort of open up about their interests as well, because it's all very well and good to say, oh, find out what your child likes, but if their door is always closed, you're not really going to know what they like, apart from they like being called when dinner is ready and they eat. That's about it. But, you know, I think it's a two-way thing, relationships. So it's not necessarily just about giving and the child taking. It's about really, the child should really, if they're comfortable, to come forward and say, okay, I quite like this. And then, okay, let's try and do this. So I think that's kind of where I stand with that.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Yes, it's so true. And because it's a two-way relationship, it's important that young people start to speak up more about what it is that they want or what it is that they would prefer with their moms. I talk to young people as well, and I always say that. I said, please, you guys, tell your parents. Then they say, oh no, but my mom won't listen, my dad won't listen. I said, still tell them. At least they would have heard it. Now, if they don't do anything about it, then that's on them. But at least share with them, because many of parents don't know. And because we've been brought up in a different era with a different kind of, in a different kind of way, those are the things that we default to. So it's so important for young people to share with their parents, of course, in a polite way now, so that your parents can hear you. Of course, in a polite way, but it's so important, because when you do that, young people, when you share with your parents, you're helping your parents, you're helping yourselves, you're helping your siblings. You know, that's a good role to be in. So please don't shy away. Thank you, Wemi, for actually mentioning that, because that is very, very vital. Okay, all right. Who else has something to say on that? Emmanuel, yes, go for it.
I think it's quite important.
It's because of, yeah.
I think it's really.
I think it's because we're in the same room. Okay. Are you on mute? Are you muted?
Okay, don't worry. Yeah, you can lower the volume of one device, and then it won't.
When it comes to things like this, I feel like parents should make sure they delve into their child's interests a bit more, because it's different from when they're young, when they run around saying that they like princesses or they want to be a princess or something like that. But when you get older, it's more like you are kind of scared to what your parents would think about what you like, or you just, it just never really crosses your mind. So when they're trying to get stuff for you or trying to talk to you about something, they can't connect to you on that personal level like your friends can, because they know you're interested. That makes sense. Yeah. And yeah, that's all I really have to say.
No, awesome. That is really, really great, because if they don't come in to that personal level and know what you're interested about, then young people might just think, okay, she's not interested, or they're not interested in what I want to do, or what I like, what I love. And so it affects the communication. If someone is interested in what you're doing, like, oh wow, wow, oh, really? you know, if someone is really interested in what you do, then you're more willing to actually share with that person. So I definitely get your point, Emanuela. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that. I just want to make sure that I'm not missing anybody else. Has anybody else got something to say on that?
Can I just add something to that?
Yes, please go for it.
I think above all, like, what children expect is emotional availability. Like, you might provide for that child financially, you might be there for them, you cook for them, they have 3 meals a day, they go to school, you provide everything else they need. But if that child is emotionally neglected, they're prone to turn to other things. Like, you find that most children, especially in school, who misbehave nowadays, mostly are experiencing emotional neglect from their parents. They feel like their parents aren't paying attention to them, so they go to school to misbehave. And they do all this stuff and they turn to other sources to find like attention that they need. So sometimes you simply being there, them simply seeing you, like it doesn't, not all emotions are communicated through words. Sometimes you simply sitting beside them, like on the couch for a change, like what some people recommended, having dinner together. Like, I feel like emotional availability is really important. You physically being there, being present emotionally for that child. Because I feel like a lot of parents are like, oh, I have a roof over your head, so you should be fine. I give you 3 meals a day, you should be fine. And I feel like another thing people say is that, oh, there was no such thing as depression back in my day. There was no such thing as mental health illnesses back in my day. When I was young, I didn't have anyone who I knew who had that. And you find that there was, like, things like mental health illnesses have always existed and they always will exist. Like, people have a really bad stigma around them. You see it in adults today. You see that some adults have undealt with trauma. You see that some adults have mental illnesses that they haven't even noticed yet. So mental illnesses have always existed. I feel like as parents, people need to recognize that this isn't just this isn't just this is just a Gen Z problem. This is just your generation's problem. You guys make stuff up. You guys give excuses. Like, it's just emotional availability, because with people who are older than me, I've seen parents, I've seen older people who have undealt with trauma, undealt with mental illnesses that are still affecting them in their daily lives. So I feel like emotional availability is really important, and recognizing the fact that mental illness is a thing, and not just mental illness, just mental health in general, because we all have mental health. So realizing that mental health is a thing, it's an area, we all have it, just being aware of it, finding places to educate yourself as well. For example, this platform is a way that we're all educating ourselves and we're all learning, both parents and young people, we're seeing each other's perspectives. So I feel like that's important as well. So I think that would help with the situation.
I'm just like, you know, this is, yeah. Oh, wow, Jennifer. All right. So true. So true. A lot of adults today are dealing with undealt trauma. Very much. And when you see adults who, I've said this before sometimes when I talk to parents, because I run an organization called Parenting Teen Solutions. And you see a lot of adults who can get so angry, very just angry, so unnecessary. When I say unnecessarily, but for little things, they get really, really angry and shout and do all these things. And a lot of times it's mental health issues. It's things that they've not dealt with as younger people. And so what Jennifer said, being emotionally available, but sometimes as well, what happens with parents and what happens with adults is that they don't even know how to. They don't know the how to actually, okay, if we tell them, oh, mom, you've got to be more emotionally available, they'll be like, what does that mean? They'll say, what does that mean? So a lot of times is they're not knowing how. But one of the things that are going on now in this generation and stuff that we're in is we're trying to educate adults more and more, trying to educate parents more and more, so that by the next generation, guys, you guys now coming up now are going to be future parents, you guys will do better. So it's so important to embrace the learning. And that's why I shared that quote at the beginning, because if we're not willing to learn, unlearn, and relearn, then this cycle will just keep going. It will keep going. It will keep going. So very vital that we're open to it. And I tell parents this, I say, when I tell you, let's be better parents, I don't mean that you're a bad parent wanting to be better. You're already a good parent, but can we take it another level? Let's take it another level. That's really, really what it's all about. So learning new things in parenting doesn't make you a bad parent. Then our parents parented us that are really unhelpful. And it's not, when we say it's unhelpful, is we're not criticizing our parents. We're just saying that didn't work. In this time now, I'm not going to do that because that did not work. I didn't like it then, and it's not going to work now. So again, it's all about that being open to learn and relearn. And when we are open parents, we end up, our kids come up with us, our children come with us, our young adults come with us, and they help us. They help us because they know, oh, okay, she's ready to learn. He's ready to learn. He's ready to be open. So really, really key. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Okay, doctor, go for it. I see your hands raised up. Go for it.
Just going to unmute.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, right. Okay, good. I'm not muted. So I just wanted to say quickly that, and this is to parents as well, as I say to myself, that the natural way that we're going to be inclined to parent is the way we've been parented ourselves. And it's very important for us to be conscious about that the natural way that we will parent our children. So when we then look at the way we've been parented, and there are excellent ways, there are certain things, I mean, there's very many values that I've taken from my parents that I'm so thrilled about, that has really helped me to get along in life. But there are also certain things that we've learned that is not the way to do it. But we then need to consciously address those and to recognize them, because sometimes we don't. And I think that's why it's good to come to places like this. Like I said, I'm learning from this, but it's about being intentional to see that there are certain things that the way we were taught is not really the way to do it. And plus the fact that we are growing up in a different, our children are growing up in a different generation. Some of us were raised back home in Africa, where the values were different, the pressures were different, and now we are coming to a different, we are raising our children in a different place.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much for that insight, Dr. T. Thank you so much. I see Kemi, I see your hands raised up as well, so go for it.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to ask our young people, because, you know, we've been saying a lot about what parents should do and what we shouldn't do. But at the back of it is what's, because it's a mutual relationship, so to say, to support one another. And sometimes when young people are going through certain challenges, even though the mom or dad may not know the actual way to react, is the fact that they themselves will likely be going through, you know, more painful challenges, watching their child being helpless, not knowing what to do, and what have you. And in such situation, what will young people actually, what's their expectation for parents? And in a situation where communication is not really being smooth, especially with us as Black parents, where there's so many commitments, there's so many things that are pulling us here and there, you know, bills to pay, work pressure, and sometimes people even have some unresolved issue like immigration and things like that, which are extra burden. And how do you think you can be better supported? And the issue of communication has been coming up and on and on. What other way do you think that parents are actually lacking in understanding? Maybe perhaps what you've heard your friends says, or what you have experienced yourself, that you think maybe we as African parents especially could actually do a bit more for listening, or, you know, developing in such areas. Thanks.
Thanks, Kemi. Thank you for that question. So anyone raise your hands to kind of let's talk about what Kemi has just asked.
I say something?
Yeah, go for it.
I just feel not downplaying some of young people's issues can honestly just play a major factor, because even if their issues are smaller than yours, it's not small to the person experiencing it. And I feel like that's the main issue. And if you're honestly struggling to support your young person, there should be no shame in asking for help from your church or other supported organizations that you and your young person is struggling. Because honestly, by keeping silent from both parties, it will honestly just escalate to where it's not manageable for either person at all. Yes.
Awesome, awesome. You know, when I'm kind of quiet a little bit after you guys have spoken, is because I'm soaking it in. So just bear with the slight silence that can happen at that point, because I'm just soaking in what you're saying, and that is so true, because everyone's issues is their own issues. We can't downplay it. The fact that we're paying bills, that's our responsibility. It's not, and I'm talking because I'm an adult as well. I'm a parent as well. So we can't be blaming that we've got bills to pay. So we've got bigger issues than the issue of even friendships. I remember when my daughter had issues with friends in her school. I couldn't downplay that. I had to kind of come to her level and share with her even some experiences that I had with friends when I was younger. So it's a big issue for them. Anything that they're going through is a big issue for them. And the way we take the issues of bills and the big issues that we take, that's exactly the way they are taking their own issues as well. I saw Wemi's hand is up and Ronke's hand is up as well. So I'll go to Wemi first. Ronke, please, if you don't mind. I think her hand was first. Yes, go for it, Wemi.
Yeah, I think another thing that's also very important is follow up. The same way in that you have a physical illness, you seek treatment, or if you go to your GP, they tell you to, I don't know, take medicine for a certain amount of time. And if you still don't feel well, follow up. I think that's the same thing with parents, that when you have at least perhaps taking those practical steps and communication has been opened up, don't stop there. And I think what also helps for me, my own personal experience, is that sometimes I will just get texts from my mum, are you okay? How's work been today? Because I would have maybe expressed last week that I've had really tight deadlines. I hope it's not as busy this week. And that really is very encouraging. And it just really shows me that the support is always going to be there and it's ongoing. And it means that I'm probably going to be more receptive to open up earlier on if something like that does happen again. If I have a stressful week, oh gosh, I wouldn't wait until Friday. I would say on Monday, Mom, gosh, this week is going to be crazy. I've had this, and that. And I think it's just really, that is how relationships do work, because this is a lifelong relationship, like it or not. And as difficult as youths can be, and as difficult as maybe it could be to talk with parents, I think it's just something that is not necessarily going to go away. So at least what we could do for ourselves to kind of make it easier for ourselves is follow up. Just make sure that you're constantly checking in, even if it is just, like I said, my own personal experience, even if it is just a message, just dropping a message to make sure that they're okay and seeing that they're all right. Because what's difficult, I think, about mental health is that it's not something that's tangible. It's not necessarily something that can be seen. And people may seem like they're okay, or they may not seem like they're okay. And it's sometimes difficult to judge. So I think that is one of the difficulties I can imagine that people do have in terms of opening up that communication. But I think it has to be consistent, it has to be ongoing, and I think that is something that is really important as well.
Thank you for sharing that, Wemi. Thank you for sharing that follow up. I love that. Thank you for sharing. Okay, let's go to Ms. Ronke. Go for it.
Thank you. I just first of all want to applaud the young people. Really nuggets of heavy pieces of gold. Really useful. And thank you. When I was talking before, I was giving analogies and examples, but I now want to give real life examples of how and the things that worked in my home. And one of the things that did work, I think, looking at my young people today, is laughter. And laughter is really good in building up a relationship. It could be something small or big, you know. Laughter, joking about things around the home. And what that does is everybody's situation is very serious to them. But when you can find a space for laughter, it allows that space to be able to look at it and think, actually, we can get through this. So the young person approaches that issue that way as well, in terms of, okay, we can look at this. And they probably come to me and say, Mom, do you know it was this kind of situation or that kind of situation? Or my son would say it's that and this and whatever throughout. So what I want to say here is that I, as a parent, my husband and I have found that laughter, allowing young people to find that space to be able to laugh in the home, is really good in bringing, forging that relationship and creating connections and memories that you build on to be able to deal with some of the issues that sometimes cause mental health issues.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Laughter is key. It's key. Laughter is key. And when you talked about creating memories, that is something that is needed so much, because even doctor, I think you touched on it, where with mental health, when you're going through things and you want to actually help yourself, like, okay, you've recalled, how those processes that you need to help, the memories actually help us. These great memories that we built actually helps us in healing and in getting out of the I'm calling it depression or the sadness that we're feeling. Just a little memory of, oh, I remember when Mom shared that joke and we all laughed and rolled on the floor and stuff like that. When they remember such, and that is actually also a form of communication that the parent can come to remind the child of that. So the child is there feeling sad, you just, nudge them and remember when we did this. And then you could see a crack of smile begin to come out. Crack of smile begin to come out, and it's really good. We do a lot of dancing here as well, so dancing is a big thing for me. And I was so good with dancing when I was younger, but now my kids are laughing at me now when I dance. So it's those kind of memories to kind of put around, and actually helps the communication as well. I love that. I'm just trying to see if there are any other hands raised. Okay, awesome. All right, good. I haven't missed any hands raised. Okay. Yes, you can. Yes. Okay, let me go to one more question before we actually, how are we doing for time? Just bear with me 1 second. Okay, good. Okay. All right. I think in this this last part now with the panel session, I want to ask, guys, if any of you are willing to share a lived experience of mental health or and then how you actually coped with it. And it could be mental health at any point, but let it be something that you're willing to share. It be something that you're willing to share, just to share with us how you were able to cope with it. Because we believe that anyone listening now, I'm going through something, I'm going through this, I'm worried about this, I have all these worries in my head. How can I actually step out of these worries and actually flourish as a young person out there? So you're kind of talking to the young people now as you share this, but also as you share this, parents are listening as well and saying, oh, okay, I noticed that about my child, or I noticed that about my son. Okay, I'm going to suggest these ways that you have shared. So please do feel free. Kemi has just raised her hands. Okay, or 2 participants. Let me just bear with me. Let me just kind of scroll through to see that.
Oh, okay. I'll
Okay,
open the floor. Because sometimes
okay, Boale, I'll come to you. Yeah, I can see Boale's hands, so I'll come to you next. Okay. Yeah, go for it.
That's correct. Yeah, sometimes when we talk about mental health, people kind of look at the bigger picture of trauma and things like that. But I think last year, in fact, I actually shared this with Peace at some point. Last year, or around the tail end of 2019, and it was meant to be something not just massive, but something. It was about KLIMAX Family Hub, and I was just kind of like being overwhelmed about the challenges and everything. And for several nights, I just found myself crying myself to bed. And for no reason, I feel like, and part of it is going through challenges of taking decision. Where do we go with this? Do you actually go forward or not? And that lasted for almost a month. Or more, if I won't be, and I would just find myself isolating myself for no reason, and I will be driving, and then tears will roll down my face, and part of it is because I was struggling within me, and there was a day I was in the car, and I was driving, and my daughter was beside me, And I just kind of break down and just say to her, you know what, this is what I was going through mentally, and I don't know, the decision and everything. And it's amazing because I would have thought my husband was, the best person to share weight and, kind of get the kind of vibe from. But lo and behold, it happens to be my daughter. And that little conversation kind of puts me back on the pedestal to reassess myself. And I had to consciously be telling myself, Kemi, now you need to leave this and try to seek for, source for some materials, going back, because part of it as well is you've learned so much, you've seen so much, but when it comes to the hazard situation, you may feel a bit overwhelmed, like I felt. I'm not being able to tap within to actually bring all those things to life, then learning from them before things get deteriorated, is crucial. And I'm happy that I was able to do that, but not many people are able to, kind of come out in such situation. And my experience was just that sharing with someone in a very safe place kind of help. And it might not actually work for people like that. And that's my personal experience. And I think that was kind of the lowest point that I've actually felt, in terms of life challenges and things like that, because I always consider myself, I don't think. I don't think, I just do. But for the very first time, I saw myself thinking at a very, very low, I didn't even want to turn the light on. It was that bad. Everything was just like, I was left alone to mop out so many things. And some of this could be tied to spiritual side of one as well, trying to assess so many things. So for parents as well, for children, everybody, one way or the other, may experience issues like this. And what I just want to say is, when we're saying mental health, it's not about the big thing that do happen. It could be something really small, something silly, but if care is not taken, that could, deteriorate in something bigger. I don't know if that's helpful, but thank you.
Oh yes, that's very, very helpful. Very, very helpful. Thank you for sharing that. No, that's very, very helpful. Just having conversations about it so that people don't think they need to stay quiet about it. So the fact that you had a conversation about it with your daughter, and that really did help. So that gives people out there the option that, you know what, if I'm going through stuff like this, I can actually speak to someone in a safe environment. So Kemi, thank you for sharing that. That really helps. I'm going to go to Boale first because she had her hands raised first. And Jennifer, I'll come to you. And I can see another hand raised. I'll come there. So to go for it. I can see all of you. Boale, go for it.
Personally, I am a bit of a overthinker, so I do tend to overthink things a lot. And I remember where there was this period in my life, and honestly, I think I was just overthinking everything, and everything just felt like a lot at that moment. And I personally felt just really embarrassed and guilty that I was feeling this way, because I remember not thinking I had a right to feel this way. So I went through the stage of when I isolated myself from everyone. I isolated from my parents, my siblings, even my friends. I just isolated myself because I didn't want to, A, embarrass myself, B, make them think less of me, or C, burden them in a way. And honestly, that was a really bad decision on my part to do that, because it obviously just kept on getting worse and worse. And I could feel my mom and dad trying to reach out to me, but honestly, I wasn't having any of that at that point, because I had just built up this wall between them. It wasn't until it started getting bigger and a bit more serious when I had to come to terms that my mental health at that point wasn't the best. And when I just broke down, that I was able to fully talk to my mom and my dad and my siblings. And honestly, it wasn't great the way I had to get there. But I think if anything, it just taught me that it's really scary to feel like you're alone. And if there's anything that helps someone feel like they're not alone, that can be so helpful to that person. So yeah, if anything, talk to someone. Don't separate yourself from everyone because you're not doing them. Because I remember at that period, I was really worrying the people that cared about me. I couldn't really bring myself to terms with that. So do talk to people because it just hurts yourself and it hurts them. And also just if someone is in that position, just try and help them feel less alone and don't invalidate their experience, because honestly that is just helping that person build the wall instead of helping them realize how silly it might seem and breaking it down. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing that. Thanks for sharing that, Boale. That would definitely help a lot of people. That would definitely help a lot of people, knowing that it's not safe to actually stay quiet for so long. Definitely talk to someone, and so that you don't feel burdened. You don't feel like you're burdened. You're putting a burden on your loved ones around you. Your loved ones care for you, and that's what Boale has shared here is proof and is evidence of that. Your loved ones, they love you. So share with them, talk to them, no matter what. Talk to them. Don't be embarrassed about it. Don't think it's going to make you feel less than, and don't think that you're putting a burden on them when you share with them. So Boale, thank you so much for sharing that with us. Really, and that's really going to help a lot of people. So we appreciate that. Okay. All right. Let me go to Jennifer, please. Jennifer, go for it.
With Wale's experience, I can definitely say that I've felt in a similar way when it comes to overthinking and just overwhelming yourself with thoughts and feelings that you can't really explain. And I remember there was a period of my life where I felt like I wasn't special to anyone. Like, I don't know if you've heard of the term like a friendly loner. So someone who goes to school and there's someone that everyone can talk to, everyone goes to, everyone's like, oh, it's that girl, you can chill with her and then whatever. And then that person goes home and then just realizes how lonely they are, or realizes that maybe maybe I am my only friend, maybe that, do you know what I mean? And it's crazy because you go from being surrounded by people at school to being alone by yourself at home, and then you realize oh, no one even texts me, nothing like that. I didn't really feel like I was, when everyone has a partner or a best friend that they can collide with or that they can be with. So I'd come home every day and I'd be like it's just me. I only have myself. It's just me here. I don't have anyone that I can. Do you know what I mean? And my mom will clock straight away. I can't really hide stuff from my mom. My mom will notice straight away. I can put a shield on for everyone else but my mom. My mom will notice straight away. So she wasn't completely, oh, what's wrong with you? Why are you acting like this? And do you know what I mean? She was like, I realized how you might feel. She sat down, she talked to me, and with me, I don't have problems expressing my emotions with my mom. So I didn't really mind at the time. I would cry unnecessarily, I would cry for no reason. I did someone would hand a book to me funny and be like, that person doesn't like me. That person hates me. That person, they hit my guts. I'd overthink. Someone would pass a book to me funny and start thinking oh, that person hates you. They don't want to be your friend. And those type of thoughts, they used to overwhelm me. I'd go home and be oh, I'm do you know what I mean? So I had to I had to kind of look myself in the mirror and say, hang on a minute, like I need to stop seeking validation in other people and seek validation in myself. I look in the mirror and be like, you are enough. No matter what anyone says, like the whole world can like leave you, and as even only having yourself isn't really a bad thing. There's a difference between being alone and then being lonely. Sometimes you do need to have that time where you're having one-on-one with yourself. And I feel like people think like, oh, you know, if you isolate yourself, you're lonely. But sometimes you actually need that. You need to enclose yourself with you. Not for long though, obviously. Don't stay in that state, because then you can slowly become lonely. I feel like everyone needs that time where you seek validation in yourself. Do stuff that makes you happy. Do stuff for you. And don't always, I know it's good to be a good friend, but like if you know you're not in a mental state where you can be doing people favors, or you can be doing things for people, or when people know that you're always going to be there, or just call Jennifer, she'll do it for you, or just call this person, she'll definitely be there and do it for you. Like it's not good to place yourself as an item. I know it's good to be a good person, but like when people see you as a token, like, oh, just use Jennifer and you'll be fine, like she won't say no. I feel like at times, as much as it might seem like you don't want to be mean, say no. Saying no does not make you a bad person. Saying no does not make you a horrible person. Saying no for yourself is absolutely necessary at times. So I went through that experience of myself where I was breaking bits of myself for other people. So I'd like given, and then I'd have nothing for myself. I would just drown myself or overwhelm myself with all these feelings. And then I feel like another thing that most people my age are experiencing is uncertainty with exams, uncertainty with schoolwork, uncertainty with the entire education system at the moment. Is, you know, there's people paying 9K for university they can't go to. There's people who have been piling revision on top of revision on top of revision for exams they're not going to sit. So I feel like uncertainty with that has definitely affected me, especially like sitting down looking at a laptop learning how to factorize stuff is not fun. There's nothing fun about that. So I feel like if you need to, do you know what I mean, take a break or just have one-on-one time with yourself, do something you enjoy. A bubble bath, it could be something as simple as that. A bubble bath, like with you, reading a book, like, do you know what I mean, watching funny videos on your phone, like it's really small stuff that for me that counts. That's what I realized during that time in my life. So those are my two main experiences that I want people to learn about. Yeah.
Yes, that's so good, so practical as well, Jennifer. Just very, 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 very practical and relatable as well. Relatable to, you know, a lot of young people. And I just love that you guys have been so open in sharing these things, because it's going to allow other young people open up and share as well. Because the more we know about these things, the better it is. The more we know about these things, the more we can help in our ways. And I say this as a parent as well, because the more we hear of these things now, the more our ears are going to be wide open, and actually we were going to be more observant now. Okay, what should we try this in this situation? Should we try that in this situation? So you guys have been what you guys have shared today has been a lot and very, very helpful. So I want to say thank you. We're running out of time for in this question and answers. We're still good with time. We're going to be speaking to the next speaker. I see a Reverend Dolly. Did you want to share? Was it a question you wanted to ask, or what did you want to do? I'm sorry, because we're timed for the session, so I wanted to just find out quickly.
Sorry, I just unmuted myself. Hi, everyone. It's actually, I really want to share my experience, and I thought it would be so insightful. I've listened to some of the speakers, and they've really hit it on the nail. Basically, I had an experience with mental health. About 4 years ago, I lost my husband kind of sudden and untimely. Obviously, it was 48 years then. And I'm a pastor, I'm a lawyer, as in a professional. And I'm saying this because, you know, sometimes when we're leaders and we're juggling between a lot of things, people think and assume that we've got it all together. But I went through a phase of anxiety and I didn't know. And I've got two sons. The first one, adolescent at that time. So, and he's looked up to his father for so much, you know. And suddenly I moved from London, outside London. So I was just saying all the issues I was going through then. Being a good Christian, I was grounded in the word. So I resorted to the Bible. I didn't attend any counseling. And because I was so much into a lot of work then, you know, just trying to get myself up together, I didn't realize all this were impacting on my mental health until a year after that I moved outside London and I was there by myself and the two boys. So these issues with the children started. My son was having panic attack. I didn't know. And I was having anxiety. And most of the time, you know, being there by myself in the house, we're like, how are we going to do this? You know, it's men think we move there, things of DIY. So one of the things that helped me, and I think this will be helpful, that's why I'm sharing it, the fact that we can't take out the God factor, which was very helpful, prayer, but sometimes it needs practical stuff. And one of the things I did then was call my son, the eldest, which was going to be 12 at that time. And I said to him, listen, we're here by ourselves. Dad is no longer here. And he said to me once, with all these things that comes in, who's going to help us to do our DIY? I said, we'll just manage. So I tried to encourage him and I let him realize the fact that we are here for ourselves. You need to be strong for me as much as I'm strong for you. So when he started having issues and there was nobody to talk to, especially puberty, I remember he came to my room once. He wouldn't like me to say this online, to say, Mom, I don't know what I'm going to do. As in he was having erection, I was scared because that's not for me to say as a female. And I had issues with that. So I quickly started reading up about it, started praying. And over the time, I think we got over those horrible periods. But I think the best thing for parents, really, I've had it all said, and just reiterate the fact that we need to build that friendship with our children. And one of the things I did, and I said to my son, knowing that I was going through puberty, I said to him, have a friendship with me. And, you know, it was another issue for him because he saw me on this leadership pedal and, you know, in church and everything. And he used to think, oh, my mom is there, you know, especially when you were occupying a place of authority, children find it difficult to come down to our level. So I brought myself down to his level, and I used to say to him that irrespective of the fact that I'm a pastor, I'm still your mother, and anything you do, no matter how bad it is, just say to me. And I made him understand the fact that when you do it and you tell me, and I still keep my words to today, I made, you know, that friendship in him, that when you do something bad and I hear firsthand, I put my hand on the table that I will not be bad and I will not scold you for it. I'll rather walk around you to resolving this. So I think that gave him that confidence. And he tested it once. And that's what I wanted to say. A particular night he came to my room. Then I think he was 40. And he said to me, he's got a confession. And I was scared. And the next thing he said to me that he slept with, he's lost his virginity. And he was looking at me, trying to gauge my expression. To be honest with you, I froze inside of me, but I knew I had to get it together because of him. So drop my spirituality, drop whatever I am. I'm a mother. So I said to him, now go on. And he was like, are you not scared? I said, I'm disappointed, but what am I going to do? And he went after confessing and he gave me a scenario, just made it up. And he said, what are you going to do now? Are you, Dolly Agro, are you going to go to the church and tell them your son has done this? And that was tricky. I said to him, no, I won't. So he said, so you're going to cover me because I'm your son? I said, obviously, you're my son. We have to deal with it. So it took a while and he confessed and he was like, Mom, I'm serious. I actually believe he did it. And he was like, no. Upon my dad's grave, I didn't do it. And I was scared, but I was happy that day that I didn't break his confidence. And since then, there's nothing going on in his life that he doesn't tell me. So one of the things I'll leave with parents today, as I shared, I know time is gone. A lady similarly called me yesterday. She's going through child protection, you know, issues with her immigration status. I'm a lawyer as well as a pastor, so I deal with people with immigration. So basically, one of our children have been taken. The guy is holding because the guy is the one that's got the status, so she doesn't have it. So she's got a teenage child that's misbehaving now because the girl believes, and I think this will go for as many people that are still kind of sorting out their immigration issues or are not really stable. The child started misbehaving because she thinks, because the mother's got the custody of this older child because it's her second marriage. So she's had this older child from her previous country before coming. So she's got this new baby, which is like less than 2 years, with this man. So the man is holding to child protection, involves social workers and everything. They've been to court. Basically, this younger one is behaving, this older one, the first child, just 12 years, misbehaving because of the fact that she feels mom doesn't have anything. If I stay with mom, then they're going to send us back to where we're coming from. So the mom called me yesterday and she didn't know how to deal with it. And she said the girl started making notes about her, referring to her as a she and all those things. So I had to reassure her that this is the best time. And one of the things I said to her was the fact that if you're finding it difficult in this that you're going through, imagine this girl, what she's going through. She's not enjoying it. It's not her fault. So I brought all this scenario to her and I said to her, instead of it, because at the moment they're not speaking, so I said, you have to start befriending her. Look for the best opportunity to warm yourself. And I think that's the most important thing for we adults or parents. Warm yourself into the hearts of your children. I'll sit with my son and say, come on my bed, and then try to get what is going on in their heart and give them that confidence and reassurance that irrespective of anything. And I think that's going to prevent suicide and all these things going on in their hearts, because the fear with all these children, Bewal that said something earlier on that she was going through some issue and she didn't know how to speak to her parents. And that's what goes on in the mind of all these children, because they don't want to disappoint us. But we need to reassure them that, please, it is very essential for you to speak and I'll ever be your friend. And parents should please stop being dramatic. There's nothing that's happened that's never happened. So be reassuring to your children. Let them know that I'm your first contact, I'm your mother, and I'll cover you and sort you out. Not that we're covering their shenanigans or whatever they're doing, but we are being there for them. Even if we're going to take it to the next level, we want to see how we can unravel and support them at home. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Reverend Dolly. We appreciate that. That's really, really good, very practical. And thanks for sharing the stories as well, because again, storytelling, these things that we hear, when we hear real life stories, they do bring them home and they do kind of resonate and sink in our minds. So we appreciate you for sharing that. So thank you, all of you and the panelists. You guys have been awesome. Thank you so much to Boale, to Wemi, Francesca, Jennifer. You guys have been awesome. Thank you so much. And also Ronke as well, representing the parents in an awesome way. Thank you so much for that. Now we're going to go to our second speaker. Our second speaker is Miss Peace Ngozi Raji. Miss Peace is a social worker, a practice educator. She's into family education and awareness campaign, signposting and advice on community. Okay, that's what she's going to be talking about. She has experience in the area of mental health as a consultant, social worker, and a senior practitioner. And she's going to be sharing with us for 10 minutes or so on understanding of the care and the children's safeguarding system in the UK in relation to mental health. And I think that's a very, very important area for parents to be aware of. It's very, very key. So over to you, Miss Peace, are you ready?
Yes, I am ready. Hi everyone. Oh my goodness. I don't know how people feel about that, but honestly, I'm blown away by the young people. I'm blown away by all the things we've learned, all the things we've been sharing. I know when we're designing this, we thought it's good to hear from young people. It's good to understand from their point of view how they see things and how they want parents, adults to support them, and how to just, all together, work together for us to have flourishing, thriving families. And I'm blown away by all the things you've shared, all the insights you've brought, Dr. Ajayi, Ronke, Reverend and Kemi. I mean, you guys are all amazing. And Fina, oh my goodness, well done. Well done. Well, I'm going to just whiz through this because I'm not going to reinvent the wheel. Everyone has said so much. When we started, Dr. Jay said he was going to take notes. And look, I took copious notes, I took this really seriously because I really want to learn, and I really want this to have value to us and for us. All right, so I'm just going to whiz through real quick. Not saying anything new, just kind of capping things up. So some statistics for us, I don't know, do we like stats? Dr. Ajayi said about sometimes you have to be beyond the stats and see the human beings beyond it. But stats gives us a good guide about what's going on. So we can see from my beautiful PowerPoint here, it helps to have a PowerPoint so that I don't go off point. All right, so we can see that the proportion of children and young people suffering from mental health disorders has increased. So in 2017, it was 1 in 9. By July 2020, it was 1 in 6. And so they're saying that the rates have risen, you know, from, for boys, for example, from 11.4% in 2017 to 16.7% in July 2020. And for girls, 10.3 to 15.2, the same time period. And for young people as well is risen. So we can see that 27.2% of young women and 13.3% of young men identified as having mental disorders in 2020. I mean, it's a sign of, well, we've always had mental health with us, but with the COVID, with the lockdown, that has just exacerbated things. And we know how it is, it's a whole family issue. I mean, we're looking at people from Black and ethnic minorities, and we're seeing because of the high mortality rates, there's fear, there's anxiety, there's isolation, financial, I mean, we could go on, children being at school, isolated from their friends, all sorts of things. And so this workshop we have is so timely because, you know, it helps us to, it checks us and just helps us, reminds us, look, check yourself. I mean, I have to say, I found Dr. Ajayi's Minding Your Mind so wonderful about, you know, taking hold of those thoughts, you know, and making sure that you're not dwelling in negativity, that you recognize, you check yourself when you're being negative and you think positive, you make it a conscious decision. I remember saying to my dad, my mom passed in 2005, and I remember being so miserable, but I said to my dad then, I said to him, Dad, as long as I'm able to, I will not be miserable. And that's like making a real conscious effort, because there are times you feel down, whatever, all sorts of things happen, but then you know, you take hold of your mind. So like as Dr. Ajayi said, and I'll reference him because I found this talk so insightful, you know, that it's not true that your mind doesn't belong to you and you can't control it. So, you know, you take charge. And so that's some of the things we're doing. If you're mindful about your mental health, just like we're mindful about our physical health, then we have more of a chance to live, you know, in a more, in a way where we're mentally happy and able to flourish, you know, and then this just affects the whole family. Physically, we go jogging, we try and eat nutritious meals, all these things. We do the same for our mental health so that we are improving our mental state all the time. All right, so just big recap of what everyone has said. Remember about for young people, really talking about your feelings, and you guys have all touched on it from all aspects. Being able to talk to mom, dad, trusted friends, pastoral care in school, trusted people in your communities, in churches, in mosques. I'm so happy that a pastor and a lawyer actually was able to say to us about she had problems with her mental health. That also means that even as Christians, Muslims, whatever our religion is, we can get to the point where we're down, you know, and it's recognizing it and seeking help and assistance for it, yeah? Right, keeping active, going for walks, cycling, dancing, we talk about dancing, laughing, all sorts of things like that keep us going. Eating well, good nutrition. Now I mean, we're talking about young people, so we're talking, I guess, from 0 to 25, 26. So I have alcohol here on my, my slides for only over 18s. Alcohol can be a depressant, so please, if you're going to drink, be sensible. Remember about asking for help. You've got GPs, you've got all sorts of people out there who are able to support you if you think things are difficult. Taking a break. I think it was Jennifer who talked about taking a bath, you know, things like that. Find something that, you know, your me time, whatever it is, sleeping, reading a good book, just being quiet by yourself and just being a bit reflective and meditating. All those things help your mental health, yeah? Find things that you're good at. hobbies, dance, whatever it is that you think, painting, whatever that you that you like and that you're good at will help to rejuvenate you and make things much better. And for parents, we've talked about from all angles. So engaging, actually an important thing is parents educating themselves. We talked about we find ourselves parenting the way we were parented. And I remember Jennifer saying, and I think maybe Francesca touched on it, saying things like, my parents didn't go on about mental health when we were young, or just be happy I have a roof over your head or whatever. I mean, that's not it. We need to educate ourselves. It's not an excuse to say you didn't know, you weren't parented that way. That's not how you learned it. Learn about it, educate yourself, because that's the only way you can support your children, And for us as parents as well, learning to engage with our kids. We've talked about all this, being involved in activities, doing things with them. And when they tell you, like Pastor said, she said, don't be dramatic as parents. They tell you something, you shout, oh, don't be dramatic. Give hope, be positive. Nothing is new under the sun. Take everything calmly, and just encourage the kids and explain to them that things will be better, And then, like I said, make yourself aware of the resources, which is my big thing here, making ourselves aware of the resources. Sometimes we're so isolated. There's so much, stigma, embarrassment. Those things, don't help anyone. Don't help. Like, someone said about if you fell down, and I think it was Francesca, if you break your leg, you call the ambulance, you call 999 or whatever. But if you're mentally unwell, you hide it. Even as a family, you don't want anyone to know what you're going through. And then things really get out of hand, things escalate. There's so many statistics out there about how there's so many Black and ethnic minority people who end up more detained in hospital, or who end up in criminal justice systems. And that's because we don't seek early help. We don't recognize when these things are happening and try and nip it in the bud. We hide it till it gets to a crisis point. And then really it's out of our hands, and then we can't deal with it anymore. So these are just me recapping all the things we have said that I found very insightful. Now, if you feel worried about your mental health, your first port of call really is your GP. Your GP has lots of resources, lots of information and advice, that you can tap into. Most of the A&Es, I don't want to say all, because I don't know about all of them, but I know most of them have mental health workers, most of them have liaison services. So you can actually take yourself to an A&E if your GP isn't open, and speak to a mental health worker while you're there. If you're in this local area, so what I mean by that is Essex, Southend, Thurrock, I don't really know. There are lots of trusts out there doing lots of things, but your GP would be able to signpost you. But if you're in this area and you're a parent, or from your schools, or even yourself, and you're below the age of 18, you can refer yourself to the emotional well-being service. You can call the NHS 111 and select option 2. And the Samaritans also offer confidential and emotional support. And if you're over 18, then Essex Partnership Trust will also provide support. Now, those two services I've talked about are, if you like, statutory. So they're like secondary services. They're like for services for people who are really unwell. So there's so many things to do before you get to that point. That point is for people who end up like, if you're really ill and the GPs can't really support you anymore, then you get to that point. But that's what the pathway is, really, see your GP. But apart from that, though, there's so many things, so many services. Now, my slide goes on forever. So I hope that Kemi will share with everyone. And it has all sorts of resources. So I've got the big white wall. It's a commission service and it's online. So this is mental health support for young people and children. And so it doesn't matter where you are in UK. Sometimes it doesn't matter where you are in the world, as long as you have internet connection. So there's all sorts of services you can tap in. Papyrus, Young Minds. There's so many. The NHS Go. There's services for OCD. All sorts of services out there. Counseling services. Me and my mind. If you think you're hearing voices or seeing things that are unusual, So what I'll do is I'll leave this slides because it's got lots of community resources, and Kemi will share it.
Yeah, and if anyone wants the resources as well, or the contact, you can leave us your email in the chat box. We will definitely email
send them
across
to you. Yeah, and just to say as well that as at the back of this, if there's anyone who feels they need to talk to us privately for mentoring, Kemi and I will be available. We'll leave our contact details and we'll be able to support you going forward in any way, if you signposting, giving information and advice in whichever way we think, you know, any way that is appropriate. I'm very aware of time, so I won't go on and on. Which is why I've taken time to prepare the slides so that all the information is in one place so that people can, you know, access it whenever. So I just want to say once more, thank you, everyone. This has been amazing, insightful, so much learning. Young people, oh my God, you guys, I have a lot of hope for the future because you guys are in charge very soon. And that really bodes well for us. Right, thank you very much. And over to you, Kemi or Fina. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much. That was really, really, really insightful. And yes, the resources, awesome, great. We definitely need them. So I'm going to pass you over now to Kemi, who is going to give the vote of thanks. But before she does that, I want to say a big thank you to all of you that has been part of this, the panel, the speakers, and I will leave Kemi to do the main vote of thanks. Just from my behalf, I want to say a big thank you. And to you young people, I salute you guys. I'm really proud.
I might join the salutation as well. I
am really proud of you guys, and I'm rooting for you guys all the way as you go ahead and do what it is that you do at work, in your schooling. You guys, we're rooting for you all the way. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Fina. And thank you so much for the wonderful way you have been able to handle this evening. It's a very, very rich 2 hours spent, just over 2 hours now, because I'm conscious of time. We're just over 6 p.m. But honestly, it's a good time well spent. We've learned a lot from the young people to the parents and everything. And I think if there's anything that's resonated with me very well this evening, is the fact that it's kind of like call for some reflection. Reflection on the part of us, especially as parents, because sometimes we think we know, like I said initially, but when we are put on the other side of the table, we actually can at least see a little bit of what the young people are thinking and what they feel of us. You know, like when I was younger, I never thought my mom was doing much than cooking and just probably making my dad happy. But since being a mom, I've learned a lot that, hang on, there's so much to motherhood than just being, wearing them clothes or, providing meal for them or something. It is quite a lot. It's quite a lot. And I do understand that from relationship point of view as well, there's so many challenges that we do face. Life happens sometimes that we cannot always be in control of. Look at what's happening with the pandemic. Nobody could have thought that we will be here. For example, I am someone that is constantly on the move. I never thought I would find myself in a position where I can't even step outside of the house, for some reasons. And so it is. At some point in life, there are challenges, there are things that will happen. And young people as well, friendship is a big thing, academic pressure, one way thing or the other, you always think, oh, there's nothing they're thinking about, but there's a lot. But the good thing is you are never alone. You're never alone. If anything I've said and anything people have shared with great compassion this evening is the need to speak out. The need to speak out. Don't keep quiet. Whatever challenges you're going through, whatever it is, it's always a problem shared is kind of like absorbed. The most important thing is you are sharing it in a safe place, sharing it with people who can actually provide you the necessary support. And that is where it comes to the issue of going to through the right channel and going through the numbers if you don't feel you're confident enough to have a relative or a very good friend. And sometimes even when you share it, they may not have the ultimate solution. And that's where organizations like ours, KLIMAX Family Hub, does come in. You speak to us in a safe, and we can guarantee you confidentiality. We signpost you as need be to people who can provide you help, because if you can get the initial assessment and get an early intervention, chances are things will not escalate and get out of, blown out of proportion before, and things will get managed. But if you keep quiet and things go on and on, then it might, the other side. But the most important thing is you speak out, don't keep quiet. And if you need any, whatever support that you think it is, especially in terms of you raising your young person, because that's our own area of specialization, supporting you to be able to be a better parent. So no shame in this matter. Nobody is perfect. Just come forward and we'll be able to support you however. This evening, I want to say a special thank you to Award for All UK, because without them, we will not be having this evening for a start. And they've been able to support us as well with ongoing mentorship support. So if you think your child or yourself needs some moment, feel free to come. It's all free, and then we'll support you accordingly as it is. We have 40-minute sessions, and also we have like maybe over a certain period, once you call or email us through the contact I've left in the inbox, we'll be able to guide you accordingly. But I want to quickly switch back now and say thank you to all our wonderful speakers, from Dr. Ajayi to Wemimo to Fina. Fina, you did an awesome job. Thank you so much. To Peace, Jennifer, Jessica, Francisca, Francesca. Sorry, that's another African woman, kind of, Ronke, Reverend Dolly, everyone on the list here who have made their time to join us. I say thank you so much for your time. And I want to sincerely apologize for the rude interruption that we had at the beginning. I'm very sorry if anyone has actually felt offended by any of the things that were shown. With technology like this, I'm always very careful not to share the Zoom password and what have you. But in the past, it's always been an issue that people can't locate where the code is. And just today I decided to share it on Facebook. Look what happened. So I am very, very sorry. If you feel offended, try to speak to your younger one who are on the platform as well, and just ensure that they haven't been kind of affected by whatever they've seen today. If they have, please let us know, and we will do our utmost best to extend our apology and support however way we can. And what happened does mean that a lot of people weren't able to join because we had to lock down the meeting, unfortunately. So sorry for that. But I believe that for everyone that has been able to be here, we've done a marvelous 2 hours session. So thank you so much. I'd like all the panelists and the speakers to just give me a bit of 5 minutes after this event. And while I say a very massive thank you to everyone who has joined us, and we would just want to put this meeting to an end for now. And I say this workshop is a success. Thank you so much. I appreciate you from the corner of my heart. Thank you. And have a very, very lovely evening. Thank you. Sorry, guys, I'm just waiting for.
Are you going to stop recording on Facebook?
Oh, yes. I'm going to do that now. Thank you for reminding me with that.
Hi.